Al, I think it's time that we start answering some of these questions. We've been live for 25 minutes. Although, to be fair, about 20 minutes of that was me complaining about my cat. So, maybe maybe we should get the show started. I don't know.
I think so. Let's do it.
All right. Oh, God. Our first question comes from Corey Richmond.
This was fresh off of a very it was a pretty big argument between me and Corey. Maybe not an argument. I think we both came to understand each other's points, but still.
I can't. I told Corey to go to hell for something the other week, and I can't remember what. I'm sure it was about musical March Madness. He's probably like, Linebeck's theme is one of the greatest themes that's ever been composed.
That's what I said. That's so mean.
Corey Richmond says, who in the Zelda series has the best facial hair? Which is actually a great question.
Yeah, this came up because we were talking about the customization in the Pokemon games, and I was like, but the Pokemon games are really lacking in mustaches, and he's like, yeah, you're right. So that's where this question came from.
There's a few characters off the top of my head that just immediately come to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the first character actually is Ganondorf. I think that Ganondorf has like the thin red chin strip or chin stripe. What's that called? A chin stripe? I don't know. It's like the thin. It's the thin beard. It's almost like what I have right now. Actually, I finally. By the way, so I was growing out a beard. I have this urge about 3-4 times a year to grow out a full beard, and it usually lasts about 2 weeks. And last week I was just like, I got a chin strap. Thank you. Chin strap is what I was looking for. Thank you. Update the page. The chin strap is what Ganondorf has, but what really puts it over the top is that like his facial hair kind of bleeds into his eyebrows, like his eyebrows are connected to his beard. So that one is a really good one. Oh God, I can't remember the actual name of the Luigi works at Lon Lon Ranch.
Oh. Now I can't remember his name.
It's not Talon. Ingo. Thank you.
Yes.
Ingo came to mind.
That was my first thought was Ingo as well. Or I think of like what's his name? It's not Talon in Link's Awakening. What's his name in Link's Awakening?
Oh, Terran.
Terran.
Yeah.
I think of him a little bit.
I also, one that comes right to mind, it's Skyward Sword in particular, is Kaepora Gaebora.
Oh, yeah.
His gnarly, like, headmaster facial hair that kind of makes him look like an owl.
Yes.
That's pretty good stuff. That's pretty good stuff. Any others that come to your attention here, Al?
I'm trying to think of anybody like I feel like a lot of the ones we said, like Ingo and like Talon and Terran, they're all pretty obvious because they have those like really suave like mustaches, you know? But yeah. I don't know.
There's a couple Deku scrubs out there with some great facial hair.
There has to be like characters with like just the craziest mustaches, right? I just can't think of them. Probably a Twilight Princess character.
I'm sure that there's many a Twilight Princess character that I've just blocked from my mind that just have like weird growths on their face. Yeah.
Oh no. But Ganondorf is a really good one. Like I feel like like they frame his face so well, and he's just like this giant strong man, and he's just got like a giant strong man beard. So
yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move on here. This is a question from Ocarina Holder. As we know, Zelda has a big focus on time travel, as well as the timeliness in the Hyrule Historia, of course. What would you think if, theoretically, Nintendo announced a visual novel-style game where you could make many choices that branch off story... I'm going to just kind of clean up what he's saying here. That branch off the story in many timelines. Would this interest you? I find this to be quite interesting as a fan of visual novels such as Zero Escape and Steins Gate, where time travel is a focal point. Yeah, I think that'd be cool, actually. I really love visual novels. I think it's a great genre. I'm kind of basic. Like I've played I love the Phoenix Wright series, Ace Attorney series. I tried to get into Famicom Detective Club, and it wasn't quite up my alley. I shouldn't say that. I only played the demo, but it didn't quite hit for me the way that I was hoping it would hit. But I like that style of gameplay. I like the visual novel just genre. So I would be all for a Legend of Zelda game set in that in that genre. I think it could be really fun, especially one with multiple endings. I think could be really cool. And if it was based on time travel or not, I think that'd be fine. But yeah, I'm a big fan of visual novel games. Actually, I like them a lot.
I haven't played any like maybe action visual novels. I usually play like romance visual novels and stuff. So when you bring it up and you talk about it in Zelda, like it's hard for me to imagine an action one and
Right.
how that would be done. But I like the idea of like in the visual novels that I played is like based on your decisions you have two different endings, and based on the character you're with you have even more endings with the different characters.
Hmm.
And so I think that would be really fun if you could do that with Zelda characters, whether you're like playing as Zelda or Link. I think that would be really cool, but I don't know if there would be like a big call for that type of game in
I
Zelda.
wonder like if you would do. I don't know if these games fall under visual novel or not, but I think they're the same kind of idea where it's like you could do something like Life is Strange. You could do something like Gone Home, Edith Finch, that kind of thing. Like where you could still like move around and it's not
Mhm.
like so two dimensional like
Not very
Phoenix Wright.
static, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like so maybe you could get away with that one a little bit easier, but like those games are, I mean, basically they're just like plot novels, right?
Hmm.
Like there's no action, so to speak. I think that you could do that. And to be honest, like I don't know, I feel like if you could do Cadence of Hyrule, like you could do almost anything, like
Yeah, that's fair.
so I mean I guess the same thing I think would apply. Like there probably wasn't a big market for a Zelda rhythm game, but we had one, and I think like your expectations are obviously lower when you have a spin-off like that. And I think it's probably fair to say it costs a lot less to make too.
Hmm.
So yeah, I feel like I'd be all for it.
As far as like the timeline and the time travel aspect of it, I mean, I always love time travel in Zelda games, so I'd be for that too.
Yeah. Um, we get this question a lot every time we do a Q&A episode. Someone asks this question, and I don't know. I guess we need a definitive answer for this one day. This is from Commander Bly over on Blue Sky. Hey Andy, do you think that they have KFC Kakariko Fried Kuko in Hyrule? What do you think, Al?
Um, I'm trying to think of what the equivalent of Nashville style chicken
This is at
would be.
least the second or third time we've been asked this question on a Q&A.
You got to get like Goron spice and make Nashville style Goron style kuko for KFC. I'm sure that they eat the kukos, but it probably doesn't go well for them. I'm sure that their kuko army would attack them as soon as they lop a head off of another kuko.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I mean maybe.
can you imagine like in a future Zelda game and they have like a kuko like butcher shop and like, hey, get your fried kuko.
Yeah. I remember a couple years ago I heard that KFC like changed their, not their initials, but like what it actually stood for. It's like instead of like Kentucky Fried Chicken, it was like something else fried chicken. Is that, am I crazy?
No.
Someone out there
Wait,
might know. I don't know.
say that again?
So I remember like a few years ago, someone told me, or maybe I read it in an article or something, that KFC did not stand for Kentucky Fried Chicken. It stood for like something else fried chicken.
Oh, weird. I always knew it
Yeah,
to be Kentucky Fried Chicken.
right.
I'm
I
gonna
may
Google this.
let me know if I'm crazy or if someone out there recalls what I'm talking about. All right. So this next one is from Jagators. I was just wondering if any of you played Dredge, especially Allison. Very cozy and fun fishing game with a great story and tones of horror. If you have not played it, I highly recommend it. It's very good. Can I make a guess here, Al?
Yeah,
That you
what's
have
your
not
bet?
played this game because there are tones of horror and that makes it not cozy?
That is exactly accurate.
Ah,
So I looked it up. It does kind of give like Firewatch vibes, with like the imagery at least. And
Firewatch is not a
so
scary game.
I would get why you would think it was cozy, but I would never consider horror to be like cozy is a vibe and a feeling. Like why would you want horror in that? So, but I understand like if there are like grinding elements to the game and it's like more like tranquil and zen or whatever, like I would get that. But if there's horror in it, I don't feel tranquil and zen. So, I don't know.
Well,
And I probably won't play it cuz it has horror. So, Also, it
Do you
has to
play
do with
horror
the
games like at
ocean.
all?
No, I've played some scary games, but as I've gotten older, I've just decided to put a hard boundary on that. But I was also looking. It's like Dredge. It's like has to do with like I don't know. They're on the ocean in the boat. I'm afraid of the ocean, so I'm sorry. I'm not gonna play it.
What's wrong with the ocean?
It's terrifying.
Oh,
We
okay.
don't know what the heck is going on in there.
What's your favorite
We don't
horror
know.
game, Al? I gotta know.
What?
What's your favorite horror game?
I don't know if this constitutes as horror, and I will replay this game. It has scary elements, but it's really cute. It's called Ib. I've talked about it before. They recently put it on the Switch like a couple years ago. Somebody made it in RPG Maker like 12 years ago, and this girl gets sucked into an art museum, and another painting is trying to kill her the whole time.
So that sounds like Luigi's Mansion almost. Like what?
You
Like
know
are
what?
we talking like Resident Evil, like Dead Space? Like did you ever?
No, I don't think I've played any of those
Oh man.
games. I've played a like kind of a 2D like horror haunted castle type game, and the lady would jump out and try to stab you. That was kind of freaky.
Dude, we should play Resident Evil in Seattle
No,
together.
I'm okay.
You're missing out. You know what? Speaking of visual novels, actually, speaking of horror games, this is just a completely unrelated burial of a game, but I played Alan Wake the other day. I bought it because I heard it was awesome. I did not like that game, like, at all. Like, at all.
I feel like I heard Alan Wake 2 was amazing.
I heard that as well, but I heard Alan Wake 1 was also, like, awesome.
Okay.
And the story was okay. But, like, I had two big problems. Number one was it sucked to play. Like, it was not fun at all. And number two, sometimes you can get over that, okay? If the story is really, really great. But number two was, like, I was like, Alan is kind of a prick. I don't like him. Like, I don't, like, I'm not rooting for him. Maybe that changes, because I only made it to chapter 2. But I was just like, oh my goodness. Like, I am not enjoying this at all. And I shut it off, actually. And I don't know if I'm going to fire it back up.
DNF it.
Yeah. So, but now to answer your question, I've not played Dredge. That probably does not surprise you.
No.
I hear the word cozy and I'm just kind of like, eh.
Hey, did Sam get Stardew Valley yet?
No, but I was trying to convince her yesterday to give Fire Emblem a chance. Because actually, I restarted Fire Emblem Three Houses. Because I was in the mood for some Fire Emblem.
I saw you pop on last night, and I was like, ooh.
And actually, and I bought Fire Emblem Engage too. It's going to be here tomorrow. Because I never got around to that one. But yeah, I was just like, I feel like playing Fire Emblem, so I fired it up. And because like Sam really struggles with movement in games. Like she has a hard time like running and jumping and like with the directions. You know what I mean? And I was like, a game like Fire Emblem where you don't move really, like, I mean, you move on the battlefield, but not like that, right? Like that might be up your alley. And so I was trying to, work on it and see if she'd give it a shot, and we'll see. But yeah, so Fire Emblem Three Houses, man, that game is awesome. It really is awesome.
There's been like a lot of games that we've been talking about lately where I'm just like, man, I really want to replay that. Like, I've been replaying A Link to the Past, which I know you did too.
Yep, finished it.
I want to replay Tears of the Kingdom, Three Houses. Like, I just want to replay all these games.
Link to the Past episode coming next week, by the way.
Heck yeah!
Finally, I don't know. Should we do dungeons, bosses?
We'll have to see how we feel about it.
Maybe let us know.
We can make a few weeks out of it, I think.
I think we can too. All right, let's move on. Metal Jack 98. Will we ever see a remake of Link's crossbow training?
No.
And like, there's no reason to remake it. So
it's pretty cool the way it is, actually, and it's like a lot of fun. I'm not very good at it, but it's a lot of fun. We find a fun way to do it at the marathon in a tournament style, and that's.
I think I lasted about 12 seconds. I volunteered to go first so I could like immediately lose and just do something else.
Yeah, I'm not very good. But it's very like satisfying, like the sounds and stuff like that are very satisfying.
I wouldn't say it's impossible that it potentially gets ported at some point or like included as part of like a collection, like maybe one day down the road there's like
very specific controls,
yeah, I mean, you're right. I don't know. I could maybe like see it one day where it's like that, and Battle Quest is like it's just like a $20 like Legend of Zelda party pack or something.
Yeah.
Like, even then, I wouldn't say is very high, but I'd say that's higher than it ever getting a remake.
Fair.
I think we'll be really scraping the bottom of the barrel if we're remaking Link's Crossbow training. To be honest.
Yeah.
Okay, Majora Master. Question for the AMA episode. What item ability from a top-down Zelda game would you like to see in 3D Zelda games? And what item ability from a 3D Zelda game would you like to see in a top-down game? Ooh.
I would love to see the merging into walls in a 3D Zelda game.
That'd be
think
cool.
that'd be pretty fun and would like make for some really good puzzles. I think.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I love the puzzles in A Link Between Worlds.
Okay. I feel like I'm gonna butcher the name, so forgive me if I do. The Cane of Samaria,
Okay, yeah.
the one that makes blocks. And if I got it wrong, everybody, I'm sorry. I think that'd be great in a 3D game, particularly one like Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild, where you kind of like have the other abilities like stasis or like whatever, right? Where like you can make an object, right, and then you can climb on top of it, and maybe you go shooting up, or like maybe you can use it as like it's actually not dissimilar from like what's there already, to be honest, like where you could just use it to make like a raft or something like that. That came to my mind, and you know what else I think would be cool is Rock's feather, or Rock's cape, actually, maybe to be more specific. I think it'd be kind of cool if like you had a cape that you could just like glide on. Now,
Yeah, like flip and glide.
yeah. Now this is sort of similar to like the sailcloth right now, but I'm wondering if like you could use it to get some height, and then like just for short term distances. So it probably wouldn't be compatible with like a version like a Breath of the Wild or something like that. But I think in like a Skyward Sword Ocarina of Time, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like we had Rivali's Gale, you
Yeah.
just shoot up in the air and then glide. So I get where you're coming from with that.
I'm more so meaning for like Ocarina of Time, like smaller scale, like in
Yeah.
a forest temple. Like I think that'd be a cool ability to have.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The opposite where it's 3D to top down. The spinner in Echoes of Wisdom would have been pretty cool.
That'd be yeah. Wait a sec. The spinner in Twilight Princess, you mean?
The spinner being put in Echoes of Wisdom.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I feel like
kinda
that
feel
would be so good.
There were like you had the tiles and stuff like that, and that was kind of a similar vibe. But I thought it would have been cool to like running around on the spinner would have been neat.
Yeah, the spinner definitely. Because I think there's so much like cool puzzles, and I'm thinking like Link's Awakening, Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages style spinner. Like it's not dissimilar from a minecart in those games.
Oh yeah.
What else would be really cool? Because like so many of the items are just like a little bit different depending on. It's not an item. Actually, you know what? No, I was gonna say time shift stones, but they kind of have that in Oracle of Ages, anyways. Ooh.
Like the whip too from Skyward Sword would be a good item in 2D. I'm trying to think of like how would it be good in the 2D space, and like I feel like they kind of made in like Echoes of Wisdom with the bow, it wasn't just like left, right, up, down. They had some diagonal. So I feel like you could start doing some like hook shot stuff in the 2D games. And just having a little bit more space instead of just straight horizontal and vertical movement.
Yeah, like I feel like the double hook shot is probably one that could be pretty cool in a 2D environment. Yeah, that's a great question. I'd have to maybe think on that a little bit more to give you a better answer. But I think those ones off the top of our head would be really cool.
And just to point out too, somebody else also asked this question, so I combined them. So Flair, shout out to you for also asking that question.
Excellent question. Great minds thinking alike there. Jagaters is back. Question: what is your favorite region in Breath of the Wild and why? I personally like Akala.
Akala.
Nobody says that.
What's your favorite? I think I can probably guess what your favorite region is.
You probably can, but like I really like all of the different regions actually, like a lot. I think that they each have kind of their own unique flavor that they bring, and it's hard. Akala would be up there for me, to be honest with you. I really like the aesthetic of it, the like
fall
autumn
vibe.
Yeah, I think it's really really beautiful. Obviously, Hebra would be
Yeah, I was
one.
gonna say Hebra would be your favorite.
It's just like it's kind of a treacherous, but like there's these moments of solace that I think are just like really incredible and unmatched, and it really
Mhm.
does feel like you're at the edge of the world. I'd probably say Hebra, Gerudo would be pretty close. Farron
Mhm.
would be pretty close. Like I really enjoy. You know what? The only region that I'm not really a big fan of, and I still like it, but it is Lanayru.
Mhm.
I think that one's just kind of like it's okay. It's kind of like Farron, but it's kind of like Akala, but it's not as good as either.
Mhm. I like Lanayru when it's like raining and you're going up the path to Zora's domain. There's a lot of
Yeah,
resources on the way, which is a lot of fun. I like. Oh my gosh, I just realized how like resource heavy I like my areas to be. So like Eldin, I really like Eldin because of all the rare ore mineral deposits.
yeah.
And like I like to go farm there so I could get money, and especially in the tough economy that is Tears of the Kingdom. And I really like the Hebra region. The Hebra region I think has the best caves in Tears of the Kingdom. I know you asked Breath of the Wild, but I'm kind of combining them. Yeah, I would say those are my favorites. Some of the more elemental regions are the most fun, I think.
I think they just stand out a little bit more. You know,
Because there's some areas like the Ridgeline, of course, has the Satori Mountain, which is my
yeah,
favorite like spot. But like the Ridgeline is kind of boring in every other case, you know?
yeah, and I think like what's just the central area called? Like I can't remember.
Central Hyrule, Hyrule
Like
Field.
even that area is really fantastic because you've got like the towns and villages and stuff. So that kind of gives that area a little bit of pop. But yeah, some of those other areas like Lanayru or the Ridgeline don't have that to kind of boost it up and make it a little bit more interesting. I don't think, and
Hmm.
that's not to say that they're bad like at all.
Right.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, lots of good areas to choose from. This is a great question. This is from Dreaded. How do you believe Echoes of Wisdom serves as an indicator for the series' future? How do you think the series' future changed after Echoes of Wisdom released? I've
I
got
think,
well, you go ahead. Actually, Al. I'm sorry.
okay. I think that with Echoes of Wisdom, they realized that they still have ideas with the 2D Zelda like formula. I think they realized that going back to dungeons was a good is a good way to go. And I also think they realized that having too much freedom is like everything that we've complained about with like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, I feel like they fixed with Echoes of Wisdom. And I feel like they'll continue that in both 2D and 3D.
So my answer is a bit different. I don't think that the series' future has changed at all with Echoes of Wisdom coming out.
Hmm.
The only thing I think that Echoes of Wisdom did is tell Nintendo that there is a marketplace for a 2D Zelda game, but on a much lower scale. And
Hmm.
I think that kind of cemented that they're going to keep on doing what they're doing with the big 3D Zelda games, since those ones are the ones that sell 20 million copies, where Echoes of
Hmm.
Wisdom sells, like 3 to 5.
5. Yeah.
Um, so I don't think it's going to change anything for the future of the Zelda series. I unfortunately I don't think that they're going to take that as like we need to bring dungeons back into the big 3D Zelda games. I don't think they're going to take that as we need to make our stories a little bit more tightly woven. If they do, have those in the next big 3D Zelda game, I don't think it's because Echoes of Wisdom particularly showed them that, if that makes sense. I
Hmm.
think it's just because maybe they just came to that realization naturally. I do think that what Echoes did is it just at least said that like there is a marketplace for a new 2D Zelda game, so we can keep making them. I think that's what it
I
did.
mean, I get where you're coming from, but I feel like with what we got in Echoes, where it was like there was complete freedom, you could go wherever, but there was still like kind of a linearity to what you needed to do. Like, I feel like that was Nintendo realizing some of the complaints that happened from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdoms, and maybe like evolving so that they could still have those things, but still also like have some direction and not having too much freedom. I feel like that was a learning moment for them. So I feel like that they'll continue with that in the future of Zelda and not continue as they have been with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And it's not to say that freedom is a bad thing or anything like that. Clearly, Nintendo likes that for Zelda, as evidenced by what they did with Echoes. But I just think that they were kind of like playing with an idea like, what if we did bring more classical dungeons back? What if we did like have the freedom, but still like maybe you would want this echo in first before you go here, etc. Like I do think that they were learning from something and that it will show in the future of like the evolution of Zelda.
You could be right, and I hope you are right. To be honest, I just
Mhm.
I feel like maybe it's just a difference between like Grezzo developing a Zelda game and Nintendo developing a Zelda game, where maybe Nintendo
Mhm.
doesn't have as much like hands-on with Grezzo because they know that this is a lower stakes Zelda game, right?
Mhm.
Like, um, and I think, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that like if Echoes of Wisdom had sold like 15 million copies, then yeah, I think like definitely that changes things for the
Mhm.
series, and it still has that opportunity to do that. And that's just an arbitrary number I made up. Maybe they have like a, in our best case scenario, Echoes of Wisdom sells this, right? And maybe
Mhm.
that does impact, but I just think that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom were so incredibly successful that like it's going to be hard to for any game to challenge kind of like what that those games do, even the bad things that those games do. And I
Mhm.
think that if they do decide to make tweaks, like I think it'll just be more so based on like, I don't know, them just figuring it out rather than like Echoes of Wisdom help them get there. If that makes sense, probably
I
doesn't
think
sound like a difference between the two, but I think there is one.
it's kind of funny too when you compare like Nintendo and Zelda to other like game developers and games. So we were talking the other day in our Discord about Forbidden West and
Hmm.
Zero Dawn, and like yeah, you like it's a little bit more linear, and like where you can go is a little bit inhibited compared to like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. You can climb anywhere, you can do whatever, go wherever. And then, but then on the opposite side of the spectrum is like Forbidden West and Zero Dawn are so story heavy and so story elemented, and it's like incredible. Whereas like the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are not. So it's just like it's kind of how they have funny how they have opposite focus, and then also they're learning from each other. So like Forbidden West had more, freedom in their
Yeah.
climbing and also a glider, 7 years after the fact, but, or maybe not seven, like 5 years after the fact that Breath of the Wild had theirs, but like they're learning from each other. And this is just an example. I'm sure that Nintendo is learning from other games too. And they
Hmm.
don't always take into effect what other games do, because clearly Nintendo does their own thing. But I think they see
Yeah.
that stuff and are like, what can we do to incorporate it into our Zelda games?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could be bang on, and I guess the answer is like we'll have to see.
Yeah,
We'll see what
true.
the next three, and hopefully we see the next 3D Zelda April 2nd. I'm
I
holding
highly
out
doubt
hope.
that.
I tell you, I'm really holding out hope that they're gonna tease us with like the next 3D Zeldas in development. That's
Mhm.
it. But I don't think it's impossible.
I don't know
Dare
if
to
I want
dream.
that again. I don't know if I want that again. After 2019, I don't know if I want that again.
I mean, yeah, like I think you could get away with like a 2 year window if you're gonna do that.
I guess so.
Like, but we'll save that. We'll park that for another day. Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this clip and want to see more of the ZeldaCast, make sure to head over to your favorite podcast platform of choice and subscribe. There are over 200 episodes in the vault that will provide you with hundreds of hours of Zelda content for you to enjoy. You can listen to us when you're on a walk, fighting Ganon, trying to sleep, whatever. And if you want to see these shows as they happen, make sure to head over to twitch.tv/the ZeldaCast, where you can watch our beautiful faces talk about Zelda every single week. Don't miss out, and we'll see you next time.